We're answering the question, is it worth it to advertise on TV? Welcome to the We Are Slam Show, a show where we share best practices, insights, and ideas to help your business grow. My name is Tyler Kelly, and I'm here with my co-host, Michael T. Johnson. And today, the Monday after the Super Bowl, we're answering the question, is it worth it to advertise on TV?
Yeah, and so the Super Bowl is kind of like one of my favorite things that happens on TV, not because I like football. I actually just really love nachos and food and commercials. I love watching the creativity and everything that went into those commercials, because those are probably the highest dollar commercials we're going to see all year round. So it's definitely like my favorite thing to watch.
So in today's show, we're going to answer number one, is that spend worth it?
Yeah.
And if it is, why? If it isn't, why not? And just in general, is TV worth it outside of the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that.
So let's dive into that first question. And that's, is TV relevant? Or you could shift it to like, is the Super Bowl worth it? Either of those questions are kind of the same question. And I actually think it's the wrong question to ask. Is it worth it? Well, I don't know. But I think the right question to ask is, where are people's attention?
So let's take a look at, our current state of affairs, if you will, like just like our day to day. Like the internet is full.
Yeah.
I think something like 4.6 billion pieces of content are created and uploaded to the internet daily. I think there's a stat as well as 60 hours of video uploaded every 60 seconds to YouTube, which just blows my mind. On top of that, like, people are busy. We're hearing about this thing, inbox zero. But at the same time, our inboxes are full.
Yeah. And
there was a study that came out that said people spend 51% of their time managing information rather than acting on it. And advertising and marketing is noisy. I mean, there's millions of ads that are out there that you could come into contact with. Some stats say 5,000 a day. And if you don't remember seeing 5,000 ads a day, it's probably because your brain is doing a really good job of filtering out the information that's not relevant to you, i.e. you're not paying attention to that information.
Yeah, and I think a great way to back up that stat, if you're in any room, or like I'm sitting here right now, and if you actually pay attention to the number of logos, which are advertisements in this room, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, we probably have over 100 pointed at our faces right now.
Wow.
But our brains are so advanced in filtering out information that's not relevant to us that we just don't even see them.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, because of all of this just sheer volume of advertising and marketing and just, email messages and just anything and everything, because of that, our attention is fragmented and it's really scarce, right? So as we have more and more and more things to pay attention to, the price of attention is increasing. And so when we say, what's the right question? Is this something that someone's going to pay attention to?
Yeah.
That's going to determine, based on the value of that attention, how much you should be paying and if it's worth it.
When we talk about television and traditional media, that question's not always easy to answer. Is it worth it? But when it comes to the Super Bowl, that kind of changes the game on television, because think about it. What is the one time of the year that you actually want to watch commercials? So most of the time we have, DVR or whatever. We can fast forward through the commercials. We don't see them. Or, you've talked about the idea of, like, most of us, even when there are commercials, we're on another device. We're not actually paying attention to what's on the screen.
To the screen, yeah. So you're on your mobile phone, you're on your computer, you're having a conversation with somebody, you're at your intelligent fridge for the next minute of your life, these types of things. You're just not watching the television. But on Super Bowl Sunday, most people that are tuned in are watching the commercials.
Yeah.
And that audience is of a wide demographic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So millennials, as we know, really they're not watching TV, traditional TV as we understand it, as we know it. There's a stat that Google put out a couple years ago that actually showed the data behind this, that there are more millennials tuning into YouTube than all the cable networks combined. And, you know, that just blows your mind. But what it says when we talk about attention and is TV worth it is if you're advertising to millennials, then TV's probably not worth it for that demographic.
Yeah, in most cases. I think the interesting thing about that millennial stat as well, as from watching a lot of the Super Bowl commercials and seeing that like certain things from certain eras or time periods, like certain artists or things that are in those commercials, that as millennials get older and become a much more powerful like demographic in purchasing, people are paying a lot more attention to them. So we've seen that reflected in the creative of a lot of those Super Bowl commercials that we just saw yesterday. Is a lot of that is tailored. The creative is tailored toward that demographic.
And it's probably because this is the only time that they're actually going to see commercials, right? That demographic.
Because the rest of the time, we're all going to be on Netflix or YouTube or Amazon Prime or whatever, just watching what we want to and not worrying about the commercials.
Yeah, and you know, it's important when we think of like attention and like who's our target audience, because obviously if your target audience is millennials, then you need to look to a digital channel or a digital medium in order to, you know, try to get in front of millennials. But if your audience is baby boomers, then maybe, you know, television and radio is a good play for you, but not always, because you have to think about the types of baby boomers that are sitting through 2 or 3 minutes of commercials, right?
Yeah.
These are the types of baby boomers that maybe don't have, you know, a whole lot of mobility, that, you know, obviously if they're sitting through those commercials, they don't have the digital, you know-how to be able to either fast forward through those commercials or avoid them altogether. So if that's your audience, for many prescription, you know, RX companies, that is their audience, then by all means, do television. But if that's not your audience, then you're probably throwing your money away because you're not getting the attention that you need to move your products or your services. And
I would even say, like, even if television is a good buy for you because of your demographic, I wouldn't write off digital because there's attention there as well. You think about some of the older demographics, like think about all the people that have iPhones. It's almost everybody now has a smartphone. So my grandma, who is around her 80s, like she has an iPhone and she's on Facebook and things like that. Like it keeps people connected. So I wouldn't write off that as a place for attention for people either.
So as a marketing director, here are some questions that you should be asking. Number one, how attentive will the audience be on the, you know, in the medium that you're advertising in? Are they fully engaged? Are they going to be partially engaged? Are they going to be doing other things? You know, where's that content going to be placed? Where's that advertisement going to be placed? What time? You know, what type of audience does that draw? And how aware is your audience of your brand? You know, if they're not aware of your audience at all, then it's going to be much more difficult to capture and grab their attention in the moment. If they are aware of your brand, then it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of capture or, you know, get that notice from that person.
Then the last question you can ask is, how does my content actually engage with the person, like their beliefs, the things that they do, the people that they are? Is it actually engaging them as a person where they're at? And is it relevant to them? So I think to wrap this up, like, let's go back to that first question we asked is the Super Bowl worth it, or is television worth it? So what do you think?
What do I think? I think the Super Bowl is definitely worth it because you have all the demographics that are tuning in specifically to watch commercials. You know, they might be on their phones during the game, but when the commercials come on, people are engaged. And I'll throw it to you on the overall TV question, which you're going to say is the wrong question.
Yeah, because it's the attention question and kind of the price of the attention. I'm with you on the Super Bowl. It's totally worth it as long as you have that money to spend and you can take advantage of like what the commercials will give you, because not every brand is in that position. And with regular television, maybe you get something that's a bargain. Maybe you get something that's close to free, depending on the time. That might be worth it for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just depends on the pricing and the amount of attention.
So if you are a marketing director considering TV or radio and you want to weigh your options between TV, radio, digital, feel free to reach out. Put a question in the comments, send us a message, a private message, and we'll be sure to answer your questions. And if you've enjoyed this show, if you subscribe, or if you don't subscribe, do rate the show, review the show on all your podcast networks, and we will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you just watched, subscribe, then hit that bell. You'll be the first to be notified when new content goes live. After that, you can watch more videos from Slam Agency. We've picked something we think you'll love.